this here, this beautiful piece of machinery right here, it's my DR650. She's been with me since birth. Birth is the year 2019, name of the year 2019. As you can see, she's very well used. There are many like her. Found a new spot for oil leak. But this is my DR650. And I want to tell you about my story with this particular DR650. A quick history of me and motorcycles. I don't have a car license. I've always only ridden bikes. Started out on a little 50cc scooter, 2-stroke, went up to 70 k's an hour. Quickly got tired of that, wanted something a little bigger, so I got myself a SR400, kickstart only, which I've always had issues, electronic issues with it, and to be honest, I didn't really want to deal with it any longer, so I sold that and then got the DR650. Though I'll admit, I loved that SR as well. If I could get that bike again, you know, properly working, I probably would. Anyways, back to the DR. So on my SR, I was getting really into moto camping, going on gravel roads, because all the campsites in New Zealand have gravel roads before them, because I mean, if they don't, it's probably not a very good campsite, to be honest. So I was looking around for a LAMS approved bike, which means it had to be under 650 cc's, or exactly at 650 cc's, and I found this bike on Trade Me, which is the New Zealand version of like Craigslist, eBay, that sort of thing. And after some chit chat with the seller, I went down to Napier, which took me 8 hours on the intercity bus to pick her up. And I went down there with a pressure tester, this whole set of wrenches, socket plug, puller thing, just the whole equipment you'd possibly ever want to inspect a motorcycle. And I didn't do any of it because he said I should take it out for a spin, and I did. And it was too much fun, so I handed the guy all the money I had, and boom, it became mine. So that night I took the DR, went down to the local backpackers down in Napier, because it was already like 6 o'clock by the time I was done buying it. And then the night after I went back home, which, mind you, pretty early into my motorcycling journey. This was my longest ride ever on a brand new bike, on a bigger bike, biggest bike I've ever ridden. The whole time it pissed down, just rain, rain and rain. Though I do have this fond memory of stopping at a Subway, going around the back to the bathroom just so I can defrost my fingers under the hot water tap. I also remember that the whole time, the entire time, I was so scared of this big behemoth of a bike that I didn't go over 80 k's an hour, which really annoyed everybody who was trying to go at 100 k's an hour, which was the speed limit. Due to me also making a bad turn and getting lost a little bit, the whole 4-hour trip, it should have taken 4 hours, took me 7 hours, including the breaks. First ever adventure with her, and it was great. I will probably never forget that. Ever since then, I've done about I rolled over the auto, so it's sitting at 114,000 k's, just shy of. Like I said, I don't have a car, so I ride it every day. Rain, hail, shine, whatever. Mostly the rain and hail, feels like recently. Though it's nice to have some sun. I did have some other bikes at some point. I had a postie bike along with it, which I, rode every other day. I have a BMW RT 1150 sitting around doing absolutely nothing, mostly just taking up space. because I like riding this thing much more. That thing needs a new battery. I mean, like, have you ever tried to push start a bike that weighs like 5,000 kgs? Like, it's not fun. She's also been to just about any part of New Zealand with me, all the way down to Bluff, which is the southernmost point you can get to, and up State Highway number 1, and also to all the way up to Cape Reinga, the start up State Highway number 1. Taken her on beaches, gravel, mud. I mean, the back wheel's just filled with mud right now. Like, but my favorite part about all these roads is that it's so tall I can see over top of cars. Keep me safe. What you see is something that you can react to. For maintenance, I change oil and new clean air filter every 3,000 Ks, which is double the rate of what the manual suggests. But oil is cheap, new motor is not. I've also wrecked the starter once, as well as misplacing the starter bearing, running the whole thing through my oil system and finding it when I changed oil next. And before I put these awesome guards in, I managed to puncture 2 holes on both sides of the cases, and there's some putty underneath that is holding all the oil in. Surprisingly, I'll talk about the oil leak later. That's not where the oil leaks are coming from, which baffles me. One of the best things that ever happened when I got this bike, especially this bike, because the other ones were just a bit too slow, too small for long travel, is it's really become my therapist, right? Like, there's nothing more fun and emptying of your worriesness, that's a word I'm sure, than just being on the open road with your helmet on, going on trips, meeting new people, visiting new places. I mean, I used to be a bit of a cave troll. Like, I'd go in my room and wouldn't leave for like 8-10 hours a day, or just like I'd spend my whole weekend at home and like not set a foot outside. With this, it gets me out. It makes me want to experience the world with my bike. Some equipments that I have are new handlebars, because the factory ones are made up of cheese, I'm pretty sure, as well as these awesome wind blockers that are made out of some stuff that was getting thrown out of construction sites. And the seat repairs, or the seat as a whole. The stock seat is pretty much made out of a plank of wood. You should replace the foam immediately if you get this bike. You can also see that I've replaced some of the threading on here because I've used it so much that it was starting to rip. Nice thing about this seat in particular is that I've just got my hands on some bowstring and I just threaded it through, tied it off, just like how I would do leatherworking, saddlery stuff, and then that's allowed me to keep that seat going for much longer. I've got this tower that I cobbled together myself. It blocks a bit of wind, but mostly it protects the back of the GPS case and gives somewhere for my LED light to go. It's kind of important to be able to see where you're going at night, as well as just know where you're going, you know, GPS and all that. I made it with some aluminium scraps and some bolts I had lying around pretty much. Like, it took like 5 hours, and honestly it's a real good addition. I should really make something similar to sell to other people. Of course, I had my first welding project, my rear saddlebag holders, or like protectors. These are awesome. They're really rusty, but they work well. I've got my rear plate, as well as a how do I point in that way? As well as the top case. It's very handy, just keeping crap in there. Whenever I go traveling, I just keep stuff that I want immediate access to on the side of the road in there, and it's very nice to have. And as you can see, I have a non-factory side panel. Turns out side panels can go flying off at 140 k's an hour at extended periods of time, and that those side panels are also like $300 from Suzuki, and I did not want to pay that kind of money, so I took some roofing plastic and a heat gun, and boom, a new side panel was born. And surprisingly, it's still standing. This front brake line, I had to put some tape around it because the metal braiding kind of eats away at the aluminium it rubs up against. And of course this bash plate, which is like awesome. This thing's from like 2003, and B&B Engineering from Australia, when I contacted them about new hardware, pulled up the old hardware stuff, just asked me for shipping charges, and sent me these brackets that I don't use, by the way, straight away. Unfortunately, because I'm a lazy bugger, I just have zip ties on them. And of course, I think the best part about the bike is my tank. It's got signatures from people I've met, students I've taught, and I like to think, you know, with those signatures that they are traveling with me, looking out for me, and it brings me good luck on the road. I think the only issue I've really got right now is that there's a bit of oil burning and clearly a leak somewhere, which I haven't really been able to find where it's coming from, but I suspect that it might be the plug on the right side of the engine now. But regardless, it's not burning enough or leaking enough for me to really be worried about it, so that is what it is. When I was just scratching down ideas for this video, one of the questions I asked myself, would I do it again? Would I buy this bike again? Would I go through the same troubles again? Would I meet and do the same kind of things again? And I think the answer is yes. It's always going to be a yes. This bike has given me so much, so many stories, so much fun. Sure, it's burning oil now, it's given me plenty of headaches too, but I can't imagine my life without it. Knock on wood, but hopefully here's another 200,000 Ks, right? Cheers. Thanks for listening to this non-review of a 27-year-old motorcycle, you know, since it first rolled off the line. Should you get a DR650? I don't know. It's a cheap bike. They go everywhere, they do everything, but that's for me. Maybe your adventure lies with another bike. Or maybe it lies with another DR just like this one. But I hope you enjoyed watching this, and have a good one, hey?